Hey everyone, welcome back to the Animal Notebook channel. Today we're jumping right into a brand new explainer called Piranha Patrol, Hunters of the River. We're going to uncover the absolutely fascinating truth about one of the world's most misunderstood fish. You know, we've all seen those movies, right? The ones where these fish are depicted as just mindless, man-eating monsters. But the reality living right there beneath the surface of South American rivers, it's so much more complex and honestly way more interesting than any Hollywood blockbuster. Here is our quick roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll debunk that Hollywood monster myth, then look at their incredible anatomy, explore their totally surprising diets and social behavior, dive into their ecological importance, and finish up with the top 4 piranha FAQs. All right, let's get into part 1, the Hollywood monster myth, fact versus fiction. Time to separate the cinema fiction from the actual biological facts. So that whole pop culture idea of the piranha as this cartoonishly aggressive feeding frenzy machine, it was actually popularized over a century ago. It goes all the way back to former U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt's 1913 trip to the Amazon. He even wrote about it in his book, Through the Brazilian Wilderness. Well, the locals really wanted to put on a spectacle for him, right? So they blocked off a whole section of the river, deliberately starved the piranhas, and then tossed in a sickly cow. As you can imagine, the resulting frenzy was completely unnatural. But man, did it cement the piranha's monster status in the global imagination forever. When you actually compare the myth to reality, it is a stark contrast. The movies love to show these instantaneous, bone-stripping frenzies happening in literal seconds. But wild piranhas, they are incredibly cautious. They don't just blindly swarm everything that moves. In fact, they'll often sort of test and inspect their food before making a move. It can actually take them hours to consume a large animal. They're opportunistic scavengers way more often than they are frenzied killers. And here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. Unprovoked attacks on humans are extremely rare. They just do not hunt us, period. The vast majority of the time, a piranha is much more likely to swim away from you than attack. When those super rare incidents do happen, they're almost always just minor defensive nips, usually happening right during the dry season. That's when water levels drop, food is super scarce, and the fish are just concentrated and stressed out in tiny pools. Moving right along to Section 2, Built for the River, Anatomy of a Predator. Let's look at their awe-inspiring biology. They belong to the family Cerassolmidae, which literally translates to serrated salmon family. And the word piranha itself actually means toothfish in the indigenous Tupi language. While most of them range from about 6 to 10 inches and live 5 to 10 years out in the wild, their absolute most famous feature is, of course, their teeth. They have these interlocking razor-edged triangular teeth built specifically for shearing flesh. And get this, they replace these teeth in entire sections throughout their lives. If they lose a tooth, a brand new one just moves forward to fill the gap within days. They are literally always ready to eat. Now, prepare to have your mind blown by this number. A red-bellied piranha packs an astonishing bite force of 3,000 pounds per square inch. Relative to their body size, that's one of the most powerful bites of any fish. To put that into perspective, it's about 15 times more powerful than a human bite. And a great white shark? Their bite force is only around 200 psi. I mean, wow, piranhas really do pack a devastating punch in a very small package. They also pair that incredible bite with a sensory toolkit that is just next level. They can detect a single drop of blood from up to 65 feet away. Picture an Olympic-sized swimming pool. If you drop just one single drop of blood in there, a piranha can smell it and know exactly what direction it's coming from. Plus, they have this highly sophisticated lateral line system running right down their bodies. It detects these minute vibrations in the water, letting them hunt perfectly even in the pitch-black, muddy waters of the Amazon. All right, Section 3, Diet and Social Behavior, Surprising Habits. Despite those weapons, their daily routines are definitely going to surprise you. While we totally think of them as these strict, opportunistic carnivores eating fish and insects, many of the 30 to 60 recognized species are actually omnivores. Some are even primarily vegetarians. Yeah, no kidding. A lot of piranhas are perfectly happy munching on fruits, seeds, and river vegetation that just happen to fall into the water. They are a far cry from the strict meat-eating machines we've been led to believe. Now, here's a fact that completely flips the script. You probably assume they school together so they can hunt in these terrifying coordinated packs, right? Well, actually no. They travel in large groups or shoals because they are prey themselves. Out in the wild, piranhas are constantly hunted by caimans, river dolphins, big birds, and anacondas. Swimming in a huge group is literally just a defense mechanism so they don't get eaten. Okay, definitely add this fun fact to your animal notebook. Piranhas can bark. Seriously, researchers discovered they actually communicate through sound. By rapidly contracting their swim bladders and grinding those famous teeth together, they make these audible barking, grunting, and clicking noises. They mostly do this to talk to each other when they're stressed, feeling threatened, or if they're just fiercely guarding their food. Let's check out Section 4, the ecological truth, river engineers. Why does all of this biology actually matter to the rivers? Piranhas are absolutely vital ecosystem engineers. As apex predators, they naturally keep other fish populations in check, perfectly balancing the ecosystem. And by scavenging, they essentially act as the river's underwater cleanup crew, rapidly recycling nutrients. But honestly, the most fascinating part? They are the gardeners of the Amazon. By eating those fruits and plants we talked about, they disperse seeds through their waste over huge distances. This actively helps regenerate the vast flooded forests of South America. Without them, those habitats would be looking very different. Finally, we're at Section 5, Top 4 Piranha FAQs. Your burning questions answered. Let's tackle what you've all been wondering. We're going to rapid fire through 4 massive curiosities to close out today's explainer. We'll look at the pet trade, species diversity, their conservation status, and finally, settle the score on just how dangerous a single bite really is. Let's kick it off with whether you can actually put one in your living room. Question 1. Can you keep piranhas as pets? Is it legal? And more importantly, is it safe to keep these predators in a home aquarium? Well, the answer is yes. Some people totally do. But there's a massive catch. They need ridiculously large tanks, very strict water temperatures, and highly specific diets. But the bigger issue here is that ownership is heavily regulated or even flat out banned in tons of countries and local jurisdictions. This is strictly to stop irresponsible owners from accidentally, or let's face it, intentionally, releasing them into non-native freshwater ecosystems where they would completely wreck the local wildlife. Okay, next question. How many different piranha species are actually out there? Is it really just that one famous red-belly fish we always see? Not at all. Right now, there are between 30 and 60 recognized species, and scientists are pretty confident there are even more out there just waiting to be discovered. They range tremendously in size and attitude, too. You have the highly recognizable, somewhat aggressive red-belly piranha, but then you go all the way up to the massive, much more solitary black piranha. The largest one of those ever recorded weighed in at over 11 pounds. Moving on to our third FAQ. Are piranhas currently endangered? Are these incredible river engineers at risk of going extinct? Fortunately, most species are not currently considered endangered, but that definitely doesn't mean they're entirely safe. They are facing some really serious looming threats right now. We're talking Amazonian habitat loss due to aggressive deforestation, the construction of big dams, and severe water pollution. On top of all that, climate change is shifting the seasonal water temperatures and flooding patterns, which are absolutely crucial for their breeding cycles to work properly. And finally, question 4. Can a single piranha bite right through human skin? The biological truth here, no. A single piranha actually cannot penetrate human skin. It takes a whole group of them to inflict any sort of serious damage. And, as we've learned today, they are highly unlikely to do so unprovoked. Which really makes you wonder, if our entire perception of the piranha as this bloodthirsty movie monster was completely manufactured, what other terrifying animal myths are we believing right now that are entirely wrong? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what you think you know.